Let me start by, like others, thanking Mike Russell for getting time for this important debate. It's, of course, a very hard subject. It's difficult to accept that we're talking about something as recent as 21 years ago in the lifetimes of everyone who's here. 21 years since the Srebrenica genocide. And, of course, in the life of the human race, that's hardly a heartbeat. It's just yesterday. And many of those who died were young men and young women, perhaps, but tragically not only them. As I revisit eyewitness accounts, photos, newspaper articles, I see the horror, the terror, the sorrow. I see families. I see people simply like us who sought to live. The Balkans, of course, was a crucible of the First World War, and throughout the 20th century, there were significant difficulties culminating in what happened with the collapse of the former Yugoslavia. The push for democratic reform after the end of the Soviet Union was met with oppression. Civil war burst out all over the region. Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Kosovo cascaded into chaos as Milosevic orchestrated his campaign. The media in the area portrayed families of other ethnicities as rapists or as violent killers. The media condoned, indeed encouraged, violence towards them. The venom they kindled incited hatred that caused perhaps 140,000 deaths, but certainly ruined millions of lives. Margaret MacDonald, in another context, said that the living shall envy the dead, and perhaps that was how many of those who survived may have felt. Srebrenica was emblematic of the ethnic hatred stirred up by Slobodan Milosevic and Radko Mladic. In Srebrenica, they conjured terror and murder, aimed squarely at the Bosniak Muslim population, a program of ethnic cleansing. Witness accounts, one woman recounted how she left Srebrenica to find safety, only to be raped on arrival in Tiska. Another survivor recounted the harrowing tale of the death of young boys and a 14-year-old rape victim. She said, "They took some boys who were about 10 or 11. We never saw them again. Everyone was in panic, trying to hide their boys. While this was going on, the girl slipped off to the side, took a scarf, tied it round her neck, and hanged herself. And by the time we got to her, she was dead." All fueled by a vicious campaign of xenophobia. Thousands and thousands died, millions were displaced, and the use of sexualized violence and torture was commonplace. That's a tragic capacity that lives in the human race for hatred and racism. So we must remember all those who died, but support all those who survived. There's nothing so toxic in civilization as violence, nothing so toxic to the spirit and civilization as hatred. And today, these lessons are as important as they ever were. Senator Robert F. Kennedy, himself meeting a violent end, said on the disease of violence in our civilization, "We must recognize that this short life can neither be ennobled or enriched by hatred or revenge. Our lives on this planet are too short and the work to be done too great to let this spirit flourish any longer in our land." Let me briefly go back 100 years to W.B. Yeats and quote a little bit of poetry to conclude, written at the time of the First War. "The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." Presiding Officer.